What's up, Taiwan? I'm Jeremy Olivier with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. The presidential office has ordered Taiwan's 2025 central government budget to be put into effect. It follows months of fighting in the legislature after opposition lawmakers made sweeping cuts and freezes to the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's proposed funding bill. Those have affected everything from Taiwan's defense budget to subsidies for its state-owned power utility. Taiwan has revoked the residence permits of 2 more Chinese people living in Taiwan, saying they made statements advocating unification with China by force. It comes after Chinese influencer Yaya was asked to leave Taiwan for promoting similar ideas on social media. Taipei officials say these messages are unacceptable. Joyce Zhang reports.
It's a hard no for Chinese influencer Yaya and her quest to keep her Taiwanese residency after Taipei revoked it for her public videos that propose unification with China by military force.
也许明天早上醒来，宝岛上已经插满了5星红旗，想想都让人开心。
It's a message that's drawn widespread criticism in Taiwan, a self-ruled country where most people identify as Taiwanese, but Beijing has repeatedly threatened to invade it. Yaya, who posted her content on Chinese social media platform Douyin to almost 450,000 followers, had gained the right to live in Taiwan by marrying a Taiwanese citizen. Taiwan's main government body dealing with cross-strait affairs with China is standing by the move to revoke her residency and the order for her to leave Taiwan within 10 days.
它里面的有没有在鼓吹武统？我想，但这个就不用辩论。这位刘正雅，他是提出武统的言论，这个是涉及我们这个绝对不能容许的原则。
Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te has also been doubling down on combating Chinese infiltration of the country, with new national security measures against what Lai says is a foreign hostile force amid cases of China-linked espionage in Taiwan's military and pressure on Taiwanese entertainers to take a pro-China stance to tap into its lucrative market. As for Yaya, the influencer is trying to appeal her order to leave, saying her family is at stake.
我只希望我能够留在台湾陪我的小孩，因为3个小孩真的很难切割，我不希望说弄到最后母子分离这样。
Taiwan says public messages that pose harm to national security and social stability are judged for their severity case by case, but says something as far as proposing a Chinese military takeover, a clear red line that harms Taiwan and the freedom it's working to protect. Andy Xue and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus.
4 Chinese Coast Guard ships entered Taiwanese waters off the outlying Kinmen Islands on Friday, but Taiwan's Coast Guard says it's chased them away. It's the 2nd Chinese incursion there in a day, and the 63rd since last February, when a confrontation with Taiwan's Coast Guard led to the deaths of 2 Chinese fishers. The Coast Guard says these repeated incursions are gray zone warfare tactics, falling short of open conflict, but meant to challenge Taiwan's sovereignty. After 11 days of intensive military drills, the U.S. and South Korea are wrapping up Freedom Shield, their annual exercise, which has prompted North Korea to fire multiple ballistic missiles as a warning. Jaime Okan has the latest.
U.S. and South Korean soldiers looking for weapons of mass destruction, with a little help from men's latest best friend. For the past 11 days, armies from both countries have been conducting the annual Freedom Shield exercises in South Korea, which are centered on defending against a common enemy. Neighboring North Korea has been improving its weapons program with at least 5 missile tests already this year. It's this kind of aggression that makes these exercises critical to the U.S.-Korea alliance. Something as simple as building a bridge helps foster ties.
I think this is the best way to strengthen the U.S. alliance. If you look behind us, the bridge that was just constructed took the sheer effort of both U.S. and ROK soldiers. 2 soldiers who, although they don't speak a common language, can come out here and complete a common task. I absolutely believe it is the symbol of the U.S.-ROK alliance.
Meanwhile, in Europe, fresh waves of North Korean soldiers are making their way onto the battlefields of Ukraine, with some Russian units now mostly made of non-Russian troops. This is raising concern with U.S. allies, as Pyongyang and Moscow could form closer security ties and change the balance of power in Asia.
You know, this has strategic implications not only from the standpoint of Russia helping advance North Korea's military technology, but also by kind of reducing potentially North Korean reliance on China, which has significant impacts for regional power dynamics.
That's why the U.S. and South Korea are taking advantage of the Freedom Shield drills to step up cooperation and practice realistic scenarios, like fighting side by side in big cities.
It's, you know, ensuring that our, you know, joint plans to respond to contingencies are actually being, you know, put into practice, but also from a deterrence signaling standpoint, kind of, you know, showing potential adversaries that, you know, the U.S.-Korea alliance remains active, it remains strong, and prepared to respond to any acts of aggression.
North Korea has continued to denounce these exercises, saying they are dangerous and provocative. But for the U.S. and South Korea, it's a reminder of their strong alliance, held for over 70 years. Devin Tsai, Zalan Shata, and Jaime Okan for TaiwanPlus.
There was chaos on the streets of Jakarta overnight as Indonesian police got violent with groups of student protesters. Many fear a return to authoritarian rule after recent laws passed expanding the military's role in civil society. Reese Ayers reports.
Explosive clashes in Indonesia's capital, Jakarta, as police used tear gas and water cannons to scatter crowds of protesters, many students, protesting their parliament's recent decision to pass contentious revisions to the country's military law.
Apakah dapat disetujui untuk disahkan menjadi undang-undang? Terima kasih.
In addition to modernizing the country's weapons and defense, the law will make room for more military officers in government and civilian posts.
Memperjelas batasan dan mekanisme pelibatan TNI dalam tugas non-militer.
It's a move protesters say puts the military where they're not needed.
Kenapa food estate juga dikuasain oleh angkatan? Saya pikir itu bukan bidangnya dia.
With some concerned it brings Indonesia back closer to authoritarian rule, with memories of former President Suharto's New Order era still fresh.
Pemerintahan Orde Baru Soeharto dihidupkan kembali ya saat ini, dan kami merasa kebebasan berserikat, berkumpul, berdemokrasi atau menyampaikan pendapat ya mulai dihilangkan atau dipersempit.
Spanning from the 1960s until the 90s, the New Order was a time when the military played a heavy role in civil society and political opponents were brutally oppressed. Civil unrest brought the period of military rule to a bloody end in 1998. But not all the people out on the streets of Jakarta opposed the new amendments.
Kami dengan adanya RUU TNI, kami ingin TNI dan Polri bersinergi dalam menjaga keutuhan negara Republik Indonesia, menuju Indonesia Emas.
Protesters say they'll stay angry and keep pushing back against the amendments, but the bill has backing from current President Prabowo Subianto, himself a former Special Forces commander, elected into office just last year. Prabowo is seen as a symbol of the new order, a period some fear and others hope the country could be returning to. John Su and Rees for TaiwanPlus.
For more background on the Indonesian protests and President Prabowo's policy decisions, Alec McDonald spoke to Johannes Sulaiman, non-resident fellow at the National Bureau of Asia Research.
Professor, I want to start off by asking, what are the risks of this law where military personnel can now take civil service roles, and what has led to these protests?
Well, the main question is whether this is a creeping militarization of civilian institution, because if you remember Indonesian history, back in 1998, we deposed Suharto as the dictator for Indonesia, and then later in 2004, we basically try to we get rid of the military from the civilian area through the regulation number 34 year 2004 about the military. And there basically the military is not allowed to be in civilian bureaucracy. And then of course now the government said that look, the times changes, we have to move on with what's going on now, so we need to input lots of military officers in the bureaucracy. And of course many people said, hey, are we going back to the Suharto's era where Suharto will just appoint like many generals or colonels or whatever to civilian bureaucracy, so the governor will be again from the military? And that's what really scared people off.
So what has led to him deciding to repeal this law that has stood on the book for 20 years? What is he trying to solve by repealing this law?
Actually, this has been in draft and supposed to be considered by the parliament for like, I don't know, like 5 to 10 years, because it has been for so long. And in fact, Prabowo basically just told the parliament to look, just pass the law. We need this law. And one of the main reasons is because there just so many unemployed military officers within the military. I cannot remember the numbers on top of my head. But if I'm not mistaken, there were currently around 1,500 colonels and one-star generals, and only less than 300 of them have position. The rest are basically, come to the office and then pass the clock within their thumbs and elbows. So that's actually some sort of, what you call it, kind of like a band-aid solution for the government to solve this too many military officers.
In this case, then, what is a potential solution where the military needs jobs, but there is a lack of a clear role defined for them?
I can understand, like, what's the military or the government thinking, because, yes, there are just so many military officers without functional job at this point. Like I said, they come in and then they have nothing to do and go home. But the solution is actually reforming the military, getting rid of those excess officers. And that actually will hurt the government more in the short run, because what happens is you have a bunch of very angry officers, of course, who are out of job. But in the long run, this is actually a far more sustainable approach that actually will kind of, we'll help stabilize the politics. But of course, the biggest problem now is the government just passed the law secretly and very quickly. So there's just so many question marks being asked, so many questions being asked by students, and I don't disagree with them. So I think this is just a kind of well-intentioned policy that they don't really consider the long run effect.
That was Johannes Suleiman of the National Bureau of Asian Research. London's Heathrow Airport is out of commission after a fire at an electrical substation caused a significant power outage. About 1,000 domestic and international flights had to be suddenly diverted or canceled. The airport is closed all day Friday as fire crews respond to the incident, which has also left homes and businesses in the area without power. The Sudanese military says it has recaptured the country's presidential palace. It comes after nearly 2 years of civil war that has torn the African country apart, creating what UN officials say is the world's largest humanitarian crisis. The army now appears ready to retake the capital Khartoum from rival paramilitary group the Rapid Support Forces. The RSF earlier vowed to continue strikes on Sudan's north. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more of our stories. Finally, we bring you to the Kurdish region of Iraq, where thousands of people are celebrating the Nowruz Spring Festival. I'm Jeremy Olivier. Take care and see you next time.